these transformers to be assembled locally. It is very, very important because we have issues across the country where a whole country, about a quarter of this country or even half, is not connected to the grid. Madam Speaker, I wish to state clearly that if electricity supply is consistent in our entire country, then we will have opportunity of the youth working in the villages, like doing welding, hair salons, and supporting them in their daily endeavors. Because, Honorable Madam Speaker, we cannot employ everyone in the urban areas. Madam Speaker, I want to say, other than the transformers being manufactured locally, we also need to go a step further and ensure that we also reduce duty on cables, wires, stays that go along with connectivity. We also have an opportunity of also reducing excess duties on croissant and the stay-ons that also help in connectivity of electricity. However, Madam Speaker, as much as we talk about assembling these transformers, even today, what we should tend to fight more is fighting economic crime. Because, Madam Speaker, we have transformers across the country, and every now and then we hear they have been vandalized. Unless we deal with this kind of crime, we will be fighting and increasing transformers, and there will be other people coming behind us, vandalizing and sabotaging the economy of this country. Madam Speaker, for every progressive country to grow and grow successfully, we must support local manufacturing. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I want to laud this very, very important move, and I want to say we should have done it a year ago or even 10 years ago so that this country, Madam Speaker, can be able to grow and we spur our own economic growth, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to say the issue of quality assurance is equally very key, because we might start manufacturing these transformers and end up doing substandard things if we do not apply the issue of quality assurance. And I'm sure this will come at that time then when we pass this very, very important bill. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I support this bill, and I say as a country, this is the way to go. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Thuku Kwenya, member for Kinangop.
Thank you, Speaker, for this opportunity. I want to, in a very special way, support, but also say that even as we support, it is both a win and a loss, in the sense that once we amend this law as is, because we just passed this law last year in the tax amendment laws, Madam Speaker, I realize that transformers fully assembled and their parts share the same HS code. And that means then, as much as we want to protect local manufacturing, then we are giving them an equal opportunity with importers. And that being the case, Madam Speaker, I thought that maybe Finance Committee would have done a better job by separating the two codes, fully assembled transformers and the parts, so that then we exempt duty on imported parts, but still impose duty on fully assembled transformer. So that then, Madam Speaker, we have a situation whereby we are promoting local manufacturing. That component of assembly would mean some job for some young people in this country. And therefore, even as we celebrate our misstep, because this was a misstep in the first place when we passed the same in tax amendment clause, then we should go further by maybe introducing a new HS code for imported parts, so that then we cure this bill and still win in terms of raising revenue and discouraging importation of completely or fully assembled transformers. Madam Speaker, the issue of electricity in this country is quite a big one, and especially in the constituency that I represent, Kinangop. The level of connectivity is only just slightly above 50%. And indeed, if you want to achieve 100% connectivity, a lot needs to be done by this house, and especially call out Kenya Power and Lighting Company and Rural Electrification Authority. So that then, Madam Speaker, we do not have these slack and delays whereby once a project is done, by the time the one agency is transferring to the next, there are many delays that happens within that time, either because Kenya Power has an issue with how design was done, Kenya Power doesn't have connecting meters, Kenya Power or REREC did not submit leave certificates, and I think we need to have some harmony. So that then even as we look in terms of costing, we do not lose money again as in a situation whereby the government has invested its money in a project, but the project is not being commissioned, and therefore even the rate of return and the time of return delays, because we should, Kenya Power and REREC should work like business people, whereby once you invest, you should follow through to see that you start earning from your investment. And I think these are the delays that we are experiencing. And going forward, Madam Speaker, we need as members of parliament not just to pass good laws here, but also call out the implementing agencies so that then they do what they're supposed to do and do within the stipulated time. With that, Madam Speaker, I want to be generous with my time, but I think I've passed my point. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Peter Kaluma, member for Homa Bay Town.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me a chance to contribute to this particular one as a member of the Departmental Committee on Finance and Economic Planning. Madam Speaker, up to this morning, you've seen very many of our media houses making publications about intentions by the current government to increase the taxes. I wanted to confirm that that is the reason as to why, when we have a chance to confirm to the nation that that is not an intent, we have to thank you for allowing us to do so. Honorable Speaker, I sit in this committee which deals with taxation, and really that bill the media is talking about is not known to us. And let me confirm, Honorable Speaker, to the nation that it is Parliament that taxes. In fact, the main reason as to why parliaments exist is on the principle that there can be no taxation without representation. So these appearances they keep making that President Ruto or anybody outside of this house is imposing taxes is very wrong. It is insightful. And when we have a chance to demonstrate that the intent of this parliament is to the contrary, Honorable Speaker, we thank you for the opportunity. Honorable Speaker, through the Tax Laws Amendments Acts of 2024, we imposed 25% excise duty on fully assembled transformers. And I think members ought to understand this clearly, because I'm hearing members contributing, confusing parts, assembled, non-assembled. It was an imposition on fully assembled transformers. And it was hoped that if we made that imposition, Honorable Speaker, then the parts of transformers would be low, or locally manufactured transformers would be lower in cost. And so we would be spurring new industries to come to assemble and make this more available while creating employment opportunities also for our people. Honorable Speaker, contrary to that intent, and this is important, Kenya is a member of the East African Community, Common Customs External Tariff. And under that external tariff arrangement, all member states of the East African Community impose this tax under the same tariff code for both imported parts and fully assembled transformers. So that when we thought, even though we don't have companies which can manufacture transformers, the ones which can assemble would be getting the parts at a lower excise duty because we impose 25 on the fully assembled. The fact of the matter is that both fully assembled and the parts to be assembled locally under the East Africa Community Common Customs External Tariff Arrangement attract the same 25%. So that, in effect, we have not achieved the economic intent we intended by this amendment. And it's for that reason, Honorable Speaker, that I want to agree with the committee and everybody that if you are going to spur economic growth, if you are going to spur industry, and this is a good intervention coming from Parliament on behalf of government. Honorable Speaker, let me confirm that we've seen people sometimes saying, oh, our old president was launching a transformer somewhere. The fact of the matter is that electric power penetration in the country is still very low. Honorable Speaker, my constituency is called Homa Bay Town. But do you know we are far, far below 30% of electric power penetration? And for some people, while others laugh at it, for some people, if we were to get just a transformer, it is a celebration worth launching. And therefore, any measure, Honorable Speaker, any measure that allows the country to improve on power distribution has a domino effect in terms of lighting up the country. Honorable Speaker, if we lower the cost of transformers, we essentially lower the cost of energy production by lowering the component.
Order, Honorable Kaluma. There's a point of order by the Honorable Elisha Odhiambo. What is out of order?
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I think the Honorable Kaluma has made a statement that the distribution of electricity in respective areas in the country is still very low. He has contradicted the very fact that power distribution in central Kenya is at 89%.
What is
That
out
is a
of-
fact.
What is out of order, Honorable Elisha?
The statement was
The
out of
statement of-
context, and I was just trying to help him to say a fact that Homa Bay, in
So
terms
what
of coverage,
are you
Homa Bay-
assisting the Honorable
Homa
Kaluma
Bay,
to
yeah, I'm
debate?
assisting him. Homa Bay, in terms of coverage,
No, you are out of order.
Honorable Speaker.
You're out of
Honorable
order.
Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for reminding
Maybe I
Honorable.
would have assisted you if you sought to inform the Honorable Kaluma. And I want to be generous.
Do you want to
Would you
inform me?
like to inform?
I don't want
thank
information.
you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Speaker.
That's the
Honorable
Okay,
Speaker,
then
I
the
don't
Honorable
want
Kaluma
information.
does not want to be
I
informed.
don't want.
Please proceed and conclude.
Yes. Honorable Speaker, the MP for Game cannot purport to inform me about a constituency I represent. He cannot competently inform me. Honorable Speaker, the point I was making is that when some people, chide, go joking, they are saying, oh, our old president is, launching a transformer. The fact of the matter is that in some areas, seeing a transformer is huge. It makes lighting of those rural communities very easy. Everywhere we go, Honorable Speaker, people are now saying, is there going to come a time? Also, our women, who are the backbone of the rural economy, are saying, is there a time I will come home and I just touch the switch and there will be light at home? And so it is a big thing for us. Honorable Speaker, when we reduce the cost of transformers as a component for electric power distribution, the impact is that all our schools and learning institutions which are struggling with electrification will be electrified, and progress in the education sector will be achieved. The fact of the matter, Honorable Speaker, is that parts of our economy which depend on electric power, like the digital economy, Honorable Speaker, we are starting ICT hubs in every ward in the country. You cannot run it without electric power supply. So the fact of the matter is that all that part of the economy, digital economy, our young people who want to apply for jobs on the computers to work externally or to work off-site are going to be moved. Honorable Speaker, the cost of energy is a big issue when we are dealing with the state of our economy. And so as I applaud this intervention by the committee in charge of finance and taxation on behalf of this parliament, Honorable Speaker, I had proposed, and I want to end by proposing, there would be need, after we reduce the price or the cost of this customs exercise, to have a meeting between the committee in charge of finance and the committee in terms of energy, so that we can rationalize what other interventions are affecting the cost of electric power electric power, the cost of petroleum, so that we can have industries which are local. The situation we have now because of cost of energy, Honorable Speaker, is that most of our companies are going to neighboring countries, they are producing cheaply, and they are returning their goods here under this East African Common Tariff. So there would be need for that meeting. But for this intervention, we thank the committee, we thank this parliament, and we fully support it as a matter that will not only improve the livelihoods, including health. So many of our health institutions, Honorable Speaker, do not have electric power. And you know that way, the specimens, the various drugs which need to be refrigerated and kept in particular conditions cannot be kept. And that is, hurting even universal health coverage in the country. So this is a positive intervention. We are confirming to the country that where we need to be reasonable and reduce, we are reducing. The others will be considered as we go along. I support and I urge the honorable members of this House to join the committee in supporting this critical amendment. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Ekomas Mutuse, member for Kibwezi West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. From the onset, I rise to support the amendments on one particular parallel that I want to draw. 20 years ago, it was not feasible for an ordinary Kenyan to own a motorcycle. However, through progressive interventions, tax interventions and tax reforms by regimes that existed that time, beginning with the Kibaki regime, that culminated into legal notice number 112 of 2020. Today, there are a lot of local assembling of motorcycles, and ordinary Kenyans are able to afford a motorcycle. I draw this parallel also to say that if the intention of this amendment is to spur local assembling of transformers, then already there is an example drawn from what we have seen in terms of motorcycles. However, Madam Speaker, as we do so, I have also looked at the Memorandum of Objects and Reasons. And the Memorandum of Objects and Reasons reads as follows. The principal object of this bill is to amend the Excise Duty Act to remove excise duty on imported, fully assembled electric transformers. I'll be therefore requesting my very good friend, the Honorable Kimani, as he replies, to also clarify whether this object includes parts, because in the memorandum that is on the bill, the parts are not listed as part of the reasons for this bill. I therefore support, to the extent that we want to spur local manufacturing, and as well request the committee to move further to come up with regulations akin to those of motorcycles. Because if you are removing duty on parts, the reason you are removing duty is because you do not have local capacity. But that cannot be perpetual. You have to say at a certain particular time, just like Murugara said, if we have copper in the country, if we are importing parts that are made of copper from China, we need to explore our own copper so that in 5 years' time, we are able to make those parts and we do not need to import them anymore. So then it is an holistic, we are looking at our economy holistically. So then we do not import parts forever. We also explore our own minerals, make our own parts, then we are able to retire some of these tariffs as we build local capacity. But most importantly, I would want to understand whether the principal object of this amendment includes parts or it is just about fully imported transformers. And number two, Madam Speaker, as a lawyer, I will also be interested in knowing when is the effective date for this amendment. Is it immediately the Parliament passes and it is assented to by the President? Is it being backdated, or is it a future date? So that we are able also to, as we make these decisions, we know what it is that we are getting into. I thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Agnes Pereio, member for Narok North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to the excess duty bill that will remove the 20% of the excess duty to import transformers and some parts to come and assemble transformers here in Kenya. Electricity is very important to our people and especially in the rural areas because our young men are moving to towns because of looking for jobs. And the moment they will have electricity in their villages, they will also be able to create jobs for themselves. And when you look at a constituency like where I represent, we have secondary schools and learning institutions that are not connected to electricity. We have an example of the other day, a woman delivering in one of the maternity, and the matron was using her phone to assist the woman delivering. So when you see that in the health centers or in the hospitals, there is no electricity, then it means that supporting this bill will be important because we will all have our villages connected. You cannot even tell what percentage that is connected in my constituency because it is less than 10%. Because we still need electricity. And that's why I support this bill, to make sure that villages are connected and to make sure that we all have electricity. We need electricity, and at the moment an MP goes to other work in your constituency, everybody will start approaching you because they all need electricity. So I support the bill.
Order, Honorable Pereyo. I have a point of order by the Honorable Mwirigi, member for Igembe South. What is out of order, Honorable Mwirigi?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's not my intention to cut short my colleague, but I have risen to point of order number 95, Madam Speaker. Reading the mood of this House, Madam Speaker, all members are supporting this exercise of duty. And I want to call upon the mover to be called to reply. Thank you.
Okay, I'll give a chance to the Honorable Pereyo to conclude, and then I'll find out whether it's the mood of the House that we close this motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me that opportunity to end by saying we need electricity. And our people in the rural areas are seriously in need of electricity because electricity helps to reduce poverty among our people. Our young people can create jobs for themselves. Women can use electricity at night to do their work. But these days, you find that our women are longing for electricity. And that's why I support the duty, the 20% excess duty to be reduced so that it can allow the local assembly of the transformers. And again, when we have our local assembled transformers, then it means we will reduce the theft of transformers because there will be no market because we already have transformers in our own villages, and it's going to be very cheap, and the government can afford to connect electricity in all our villages. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, the Honorable Murigi rose on a point of order and made reference to standing order number 95, indicating that the mover be called to reply. And I would like to find out whether that is the mood of the House. So I put the question that the mover be now called to reply. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Mover?
Honorable Speaker, I beg to, before I reply, to donate, because I have 10 minutes, I donate.
Members, making reference to our rules, when we call upon the mover to reply, based on standing order number 95, there is no opportunity for donation. Okay. So you proceed, mover.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Dr. Nyikala, I tried. But now we are bound by the same rules made by this House. So, Honorable Speaker, I would like to really thank the concern that members of Parliament have, members of National Assembly has had on this particular matter. We want to appreciate the quality of debate that has been made by all of you and the appreciation of the work that the committee is doing to make sure that we enhance local manufacturing, Honorable Speaker. I take note on one of the comments made by the Honorable Mutusa, Honorable Speaker. In our quest to, one of the questions we asked ourselves during this amendment, to ask ourselves, do we really have local assemblers and manufacturers of transformers in this country? Honorable Speaker, we had a visit to some of these particular farms, and we actually were able to establish that we have investors in this country who have invested heavily in assembling, and they're willing, once this law is passed, Honorable Speaker, to move into manufacturing of parts of our transformers, Honorable Speaker. As I said in my moving, Honorable Speaker, we must, as a country, become selfish and support our own, rather than becoming a supermarket of importation of products across the globe, Honorable Speaker. We must learn from what global leaders like the Americans have done and make sure that we are selfish to ourselves, and we make sure we support, Honorable Speaker, our own local manufacturing, Honorable Speaker. I like the cue made by Honorable Mutusa, Honorable Speaker, and I will urge National Treasury and the Ministry of Trade to further gazette regulations that Honorable Speaker will speak to, even for these parts that we're importing, that we're assembling here, a guideline on the dates in which the industry will put measures in place to make sure that even those parts are manufactured locally, Honorable Speaker. It is possible. When this Honorable House passed the law on exempting excise duty on imported parts of motorcycles, Honorable Speaker, there were regulations that followed that said even for those particular parts, having dates that when now those parts will have to be manufactured here, local, Honorable Speaker. And I urge the Ministry of Treasury to work collaboratively with the Ministry of Trade, led by our very good CS and our former governor for Nakuru, the Honorable Lee Kinyanjui, Honorable Speaker, to gazette now regulations that will even give specification to when even these parts that are imported will start to be local manufactured, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I got a report from so many of you, Honorable Speaker, asking about the finance bill of 2025. Honorable Speaker, it is really disheartening to see that you're back to where we were last year. I am seeing analysis on social media of people on the finance bill of 2025. And I'm wondering, that bill has not even had its chance to be in this House. It has not even been tabled. It must be somewhere on the drafting of the budget office under the Ministry of Treasury, Honorable Speaker. And it's really sad that people are already starting to debate and to disinform deliberately. And I say painfully, deliberately misinform and disinform this country. Let us be patient. Let us see the proposals that the Treasury is going to come up. And then I said, we are committed as a House to ensure that we have the views of the public heard, and their views will not be heard just for the sake of it, but they'll matter in the decision that the people's representative will pass in this House, Honorable Speaker. And with those many remarks, I beg to reply.
Thank you very much, Chair. Honorable members, I defer putting of the question to another time, as it will be scheduled by the House Business Committee. Next order.
Order number 12, the Anti-Money Laundering and Combating of Terrorism Financing Laws Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 5 of 2025, second reading.
Majority.
Sorry, Honorable Speaker, I had been carried away by somebody who was asking for the transformer. Now, Honorable Speaker, I beg
but
to
are
move.
you are prepared for this?
Yeah, I am. I am.
Okay, so you may proceed on behalf of the leader of the majority party.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move the anti-money laundering and Combating of Terrorism Financing Laws, Amendment Bill 2020. Kenya's financial regulations with international best practices by amending that is the Cap 59A, Cap 59B, and the Betting, Lotteries and Gaming Act, Cap 131, the Retirement Benefit Act, Cap 197, the Mining Act, Cap 306, the Circle Societies Act, Cap 490B, the Accountants Act, Cap 531, the Estate Agents Act, Cap 533, the Certified Public Secretaries of Kenya Act, Cap 534, and the Public Benefits Organizations Act, 2013, number 18 of 2013. Honorable Speaker, if we fail to act swiftly, Kenya could face harsher economic consequences, including the withdrawal of correspondence banking relationships, making it difficult for businesses and individuals to transact internationally. That if these laws, Honorable Speaker, are not reviewed, if they are not reviewed, Honorable Speaker, in line with the global financial, to meet the global financial integrity, then, Honorable Speaker, we would be facing very serious and harsher economic consequences, Honorable Speaker. And as I've said, Honorable Speaker, this will be very difficult for people to transact between this country and any other country, especially on business people, international business people, people who live in countries that do business. Say, for example, you are living in UAE, it will be very difficult for you to transact business because of the fact that Kenya is still on the grey list, Honorable Speaker. So the bill strengthens regulatory framework and interagency collaboration and compliance obligations, ensuring that Kenya meets its international commitments and restores confidence in its financial system. Honorable Speaker, having given such a serious preamble, Honorable Speaker, it is important to demystify and make members understand of the content of the bill. What exactly is the content of the bill? Because besides the title, Honorable Speaker, when you move around the corridors of Parliament, you hear members telling you, or speaking a lot of things about the bill, Honorable Speaker, without really, some of them haven't gone through it, and it's important for us to try and simplify and help members to understand. With respect to the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act, Cap 58, the bill proposes the renaming of the position of the Director of Assets Recovery Agency to Agency Director General, ensuring consistency with other investigative bodies in the country. Because you'll realize that we have really renamed most of the investigative agencies, Honorable Speaker. Like when you talk about the DCI, we have a DCI director. So the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act is now then in this particular position. The bill proposes in renaming of the position of the Director of Assets Recovery Agency to Agency Director General, so that it equates, or rather it goes in line with the other investigative bodies in the country. Additionally, Honorable Speaker, the bill seeks to include dealers in precious metals as AML reporting institutions, requiring them to report any cash transactions of US dollars 15,000 or more conducted with a customer. This in particular, Honorable Speaker, is talking about precious metals as AML reporting institution, requiring them to report any cash transaction. Those are for precious metals, Honorable Speaker. And to reinforce compliance, the proposed amendment introduced prescribed penalties for non-compliance with any regulatory regulations made under the Act. Now, Honorable Speaker, if this bill is enacted, a natural person could face imprisonment for up to 7 years, or a fine not exceeding 10 million shillings, or even both. And for corporate entities, Honorable Speaker, non-compliance could attract a fine of up to 20 million Kenya shillings. Now, Honorable Speaker, this bill also seeks to remove non-profit organizations from AML or CFT reporting obligations to align with Financial Action Task Force standards. In line with this, it proposes to remove the Public Benefit Organization Authority, Regulatory Authority, formerly the NGO Coordination Board, from their supervisory schedule, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, with respect to the Prevention of Terrorism Act, that is CAP 59B, the bill seeks to introduce a clear definition of terrorism financing. This is a bone of contention, Honorable Speaker. It seeks to introduce a clear definition. What is terrorism financing? Encompassing the collection or provision of property and service for the Commission of Terrorism Act, as well as the financing of travel for terrorism purposes. This clarity will help the law enforcement agencies effectively combat the threat of terrorism. You know, without a clear definition, Honorable Speaker, of what exactly is terrorism financing, one would be, one would face a challenge, Honorable Speaker, when transacting without really, especially from the investigative agencies, that on face value, one may face a challenge of being accused of terrorism financing because of such uncertainty in the definition of this particular phrase, Honorable Speaker. So and the particular definition, Honorable Speaker, is to encompass the collection or provision of property and service for the Commission of Terrorism Act, Honorable Speaker. So to deter such offenses, Honorable Speaker, the bill proposes harsher penalties for financing travel for terrorism. Very harsh. We all know what terrorism has done in this country. We all know we faced, either directly or indirectly, the challenges of terrorism. So, Honorable Speaker, this bill then proposes harsher penalties for those who propose, or rather who finance the travel for terrorism, Honorable Speaker. If enacted, a convicted natural person would face imprisonment of up to 20 years, while a legal entity could be fined up to 20 million shillings. So if you are hiding behind a legal entity, say a company, and you, or an NGO or anything that you want to, anything, and you finance the terrorism travel, Honorable Speaker, then you will face the fine of up to 20 million shillings because you are putting the life of other Kenyans in danger. Additionally, Honorable Speaker, the bill seeks to grant the Financial Reporting Center, supervisory bodies, and self-regulatory organizations greater authority to supervise and enforce preventive measures against terrorism financing and the financing of proliferation activities. Honorable Speaker, even before we talk about the implications of what happens or the aftermath of what happens after when a terrorism act is done, we must have very serious preventive measures to deter. We must learn as a country to protect before it happens. And that is why this bill, Honorable Speaker, seeks to grant the Financial Reporting Center, that supervisory bodies and regulatory organizations, authority to supervise, Honorable Speaker, and enforce preventive measures against terrorism, Honorable Speaker. These entities would also be empowered to oversee the implementation of targeted financial sanctions by reporting institutions and further strengthening Kenya's counter-terrorism financing framework. With respect to the Betting, Lotteries and Gaming Act, CAP 131, Honorable Speaker, the Act is set to be amended to enhance the regulatory powers of the Betting Control and Licensing Board. The amendments will empower the board to regulate and supervise entities under the jurisdiction for compliance with anti-money laundering, counter-financing of terrorism, and counter-proliferation financing measures, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, betting and lotteries and gaming attracts a lot of cash flows. When people are betting, it really attracts a lot of cash flows within their systems, Honorable Speaker. If not really keenly checked, one who has an intent of financing an act of terrorism would hide in such companies or in organizations that do these lotteries, Honorable Speaker, in the pretense of perhaps saying that, this is for a winner or for somebody who's won the lottery or something. But in real sense, they are financing the terrorists, Honorable Speaker. So the amendment will empower the board to regulate and supervise entities within that jurisdiction so that one can be able to trace the funds. Where are they coming from? Where are they going? So that people do not take advantage of the gap in law as far as the Betting and Lotteries and Gaming Act is concerned to pass some huge amount of money in the name of betting, Honorable Speaker. So additionally, the amendments will, of course, introduce penalties for violation related to money laundering and terrorism financing, and a legal entity found in breach may face, and this is, Honorable Speaker, this is in particular of the Betting, Lotteries and Gaming Act, and a legal entity found in breach may face a fine of up to 5 million shillings, while a natural person may be fined up to 1 million shillings. Honorable Speaker, with respect to the Retirement Benefit Act, Cap 197, the bill provides for the powers of the Retirement Benefits Authority for anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism purposes of the Act. So it seeks to provide for the regulations, supervision and compliance for anti-money laundering, combating the financing of terrorism, and counter-proliferation financing by all reporting institutions supervised by the authority. Honorable Speaker, this simply empowers the Retirement Benefits Act, Honorable Speaker, so that they can be able to supervise, they can be able to manage, they can be able to see what happens on any authority that is supervised by them, so that they can be able to see the movement. We are still talking about terrorism financing. It is very, very important that this particular act is reviewed so that it can fit within that line, Honorable Speaker. So to strengthen the role of the authority, Honorable Speaker, the bill provides for vetting, very important, inspection, provision of necessary documents, sanctions of supervision or supervision of significant shareholders, proposed beneficial owners, directors, and senior officers of reporting institutions in helping the authority to achieve its mandate. This is very vital, that it must really help the authority to achieve its mandate by supervising all those steps so that we don't leave a single gap of lacking that can lead to a leak or a leakage in money movement, mass money movement without being reviewed, Honorable Speaker. So the bill provides for penalties for violation relating to money laundering and terrorism financing. It also provides for a legal person who fails to comply are liable to a penalty, Honorable Speaker, that is not exceeding 5 million shillings. If it is a natural person, a fine not exceeding 1 million shillings, Honorable Speaker. Because, of course, the other one is a legal person. And further, there is an additional penalty not exceeding 100,000 shillings in each of the above mentioned cases for each day of non-compliance, Honorable Speaker. If that non-compliance continues, that fine that will be imposed will be almost about 100,000 each day that that person did not really comply. Now, with respect to the Mining Act, Honorable Speaker, Cap 306, the bill provides for a new definition by including the terrorism financing meaning assigned under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. New definition by including the terrorism financing meaning assigned under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. Honorable Speaker, mining is also another industry that has attracted so many players, Honorable Speaker, and it involves a lot of money. Much money, a lot of money is transacted within the mining industry, Honorable Speaker. So without having a review of what exactly terrorism financing is, without having a review of or including the definition of a terrorism mining, Honorable Speaker, or terrorism financing, Honorable Speaker, this is another avenue. A person with terrorism intent will seek to pass, or rather to have, to convey the terrorism financing money, or whatever we may call it, Honorable Speaker, to pass through the Mining Act. Because of that particular gap, it's very important that this is reviewed so that the definition is included in the Mining Act. Because there are people who will pretend that they are doing mining because of the large transactions of money that is involved in mining, have some element of sneaking some amount of money for purposes of terrorism. So the bill seeks to provide for additional powers to the Director of Mines for anti-money laundering and countering the finance of terrorism purposes of the Act. So the Director of Mines, Honorable Speaker, shall undertake the following mandates. Number one, the person will provide for the regulations, supervise, and be keen on compliance for anti-money laundering, combating the financing of terrorism, and counter-proliferation financing by all reporting institutions in line with the Act. So the Director of Mines, Honorable Speaker, is required to ensure there is vetting, inspection, provision of necessary documents, sanctions, supervision of mineral rights holders, dealers of reporting institutions in helping the authority achieve its mandate. Because, Honorable Speaker, moving around the country, you'll see so many miners across. In our region, we see so many miners, Honorable Speaker. Although I must declare interest, Honorable Speaker, that I am within this line. But I'll say you'll see so many people in this area where you'll get somebody calling himself a miner, that, I do mining. What do you do? Walking around and, saying that, the gold that I'm carrying here, I picked it somewhere from some place, maybe in Migori or some other place. But in real sense, this is a person using that gap in law. A person using the gap in law to use, to convey money that is for these illegal activities called terrorism, Honorable Speaker. So the bill seeks to introduce penalties for mineral rights holder or dealer or their agent who violate or fail to comply with the regulations of anti-money laundering and combating the financing of terrorism and counter-proliferation purposes. Provides for legal person who fails to comply that the person is liable to a penalty not exceeding 5 million shillings. That's a legal person. And largely in this area, Honorable Speaker, you'll realize that it is actually a legal person that will be perhaps a major player. But again, to cover or to seal every loophole, if it's a natural person, it's then a fine of not exceeding 1 million shillings. So further, there is an additional penalty not exceeding 100,000 shillings in each of the aforementioned cases for each day non-compliance continues. Honorable Speaker, next is the SACCO Societies Act, Cap 490B. The bill provides for a new definition in proper alphabetical sequence by including the terrorism financing meaning assigned under the provision of Terrorism Act. You'll realize, Honorable Speaker, that in every section that we are discussing, there is a section that is being added, a definition of terrorism financing in such areas where a lot of or large money transactions are involved. So the bill seeks to introduce additional powers of the SACCO Societies Regulation Authority for anti-money laundering and countering the finance of terrorism purposes of the Act. They enhance the regulation, supervision, and compliance for anti-money laundering, combating the financing of terrorism, and counter-proliferation financing by all reporting institutions supervised by authority. Very, very important. All of them, every SACCO. Additionally, the bill aims to strengthen the authority by providing for vetting, inspection, provision of necessary documents, sanctions, supervision of significant shareholders, proposed beneficial owners, directors, and senior officers of reporting institution, and helping the authority achieve its mandate. The bill seeks to amend the Act by introducing penalties for violation of relating to money laundering and terrorism financing. It also provides for a legal person who fails to comply are liable to a penalty not exceeding 5 million shillings. And if it is a natural person, a fine not exceeding 1 million shillings. And further, Honorable Speaker, there is an additional penalty of not exceeding 100,000 shillings in each of the above-mentioned cases, Honorable Speaker. In each day that is the non-compliance continues. Honorable Speaker, I am left with just about 3 particular acts for amendments, Honorable Speaker. And number 1 is the Accountants Act, Honorable Speaker, where, of course, the bill proposes changes to strengthen the role of the institution of certified public accountants of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, I'm interested to know why the member for Molo, when I've just mentioned the accountant, is just stood up. I don't know whether he's the only accountant in this house. I don't know. Because I've just mentioned about accountants, Honorable Speaker, and terrorism, but I don't know why he's moving around when I mentioned that. He's not, for sure I know he's not a terrorist. He can't finance terrorism, but I know he's an accountant. So I don't know what he's agitated about. He's just told me that he's excited about accounting. So I'm well guided. In anti-money laundering. So combating the financing of terrorism and countering proliferation financing. So the bill, Honorable Speaker, in this particular one, is to seek to empower ISPAC to regulate, supervise, and enforce compliance among the members for these purposes. So to support the mandate, the bill proposes granting ISPAC various supervisory and enforcement powers, including vetting members of reporting institutions, conducting off-site surveillance, undertaking consolidated supervision, and imposing monetary, civil, or administrative sanctions for violations related to AML, CFT, and CPF. So additionally, Honorable Speaker, the bill introduces penalties for non-compliance with all these regulations, Honorable Speaker, and if enacted, a legal entity could face a fine up to 5 million shillings, while a natural person could be fined up to 1 million shillings, Honorable Speaker. And further, continued violation may attract additional penalties of 100,000 per day until compliance is achieved, Honorable Speaker. So this is as far as the accountant is concerned, Honorable Speaker. In the second last one, Honorable Speaker, the bill with respect to the Estate Agents Registration Act, CAP 533, the bill proposes to strengthen the regulatory role of the Estate Agents Registration Board in anti-money laundering, counter-financing of terrorism, and all those facts, Honorable Speaker. So the bill seeks to grant the board the authority to regulate and supervise entities within its jurisdictions to ensure compliance with these measures, Honorable Speaker. To support this mandate, the bill proposes granting the board various supervisory and enforcement powers, including vetting members for reporting institutions, conducting off-site surveillance, undertaking consolidated supervision, and imposing monetary, civil, administrative sanctions for violations related to ML, CFT, and CPF, Honorable Speaker. It also seeks to introduce penalties for non-compliance with the regulation, guidelines, and directives, and if enacted, Honorable Speaker, one would face, a legal entity would face 5 million shillings fine, while a natural person would be fined 1 million. And in case of continued non-compliance, each day will attract 100,000, Honorable Speaker. So the certified public secretary, Honorable Speaker, the bill proposes to strengthen the institution of the certified public secretaries of Kenya by enhancing its role in anti-money laundering, counterfeiting terrorism, and all those other matters, Honorable Speaker. And it seeks to empower the institution to regulate and supervise compliance with the measures among its members. And to support this mandate, Honorable Speaker, the bill proposes granting the institute supervisory and enforcement powers, including vetting members or reporting institutions, conducting off-site surveillance, undertaking consolidated supervision, and imposing monetary, civil, administrative sanctions for violations relating to AML, CFT, and CPF, Honorable Speaker. Additionally, on this particular, Honorable Speaker, the bill introduces penalties of non-compliance, which is 5 million for a legal entity and 1 million for a natural person, and a further 100,000 shillings for continued violation, of non-compliance, Honorable Speaker. Finally, Honorable Speaker, we look at the Public Benefits Act of 2013, number 8, Honorable Speaker. The bill proposes to empower the Public Benefits Organization Regulatory Authority with enhanced oversight and monitoring responsibility of public benefit organization at risk of terrorism financing. So this bill, Honorable Speaker, grants the authority the mandate to supervise, monitor, regulate, do every PBOs identified as vulnerable to terrorism financing. It also enables the authority to collaborate and shall share information with the Financial Reporting Center and relevant law enforcement agencies to strengthen enforcement measures. Honorable Speaker, furthermore, the bill proposes amendments. The proposed amendment provides the authority the power to issue regulations, guidelines, directives, and institutions to mitigate risk associated with terrorism financing. These provisions aim to enhance regulatory scrutiny, promote compliance, and safeguard the interest of public benefit organizations operating in the country. Honorable Speaker, you'll agree with me that the world is fast evolving. That nowadays, Honorable Speaker, we have now a further challenge, another challenge, Honorable Speaker, that is related to terrorism, that is cybercrime, Honorable Speaker. That people, even the people who are engaging in terrorism or terrorism financing, Honorable Speaker, sometimes all they need is just a computer and be techno-savvy and get a good internet and hack accounts and do everything. What this particular bill, Honorable Speaker, seeks to do is to make sure that we cover every loophole that one may use And that is why you've seen it really, it really seeks to amend so many bills, Honorable Speaker, so many acts, so that that particular clause of terrorism financing is well articulated, Honorable Speaker, in all those, especially where money transactions, Honorable Speaker, are involved, because it's largely about terrorism financing, Honorable Speaker. And that is why everything, or every day, everything that we use, everything that you know of, we talk about the lotteries, talk about gaming, talk about the accountants, talk about the circle societies, and even mining, Honorable Speaker. Those are the loopholes that were there in law that somebody would sneak in some funds somebody would sneak in some funds and do terrorism acts, Honorable Speaker. So in conclusion, I urge the Honorable Members, Honorable Speaker, to support this bill as it strengthens regulatory enforcement, enhances interagency collaboration, and reinforces compliance obligation, Honorable Speaker. And by passing this bill, Honorable Speaker, Kenya will align with international standards, because we are so much in gray level right now, Honorable Speaker. And by passing this bill, Honorable Speaker,